Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
Alright, what sins would you like to confess?
I told people someone did a bad writing, then another game came out that they didn't write, and it was still bad, so I'm a liar now.
So the sin is mostly about knowingly telling a lie.
Yeah, okay, sure, that's fine, whatever. Am I forgiven?
For not sinning, sure.
Well, I mean, I think obviously you did something wrong, because I don't feel any better,
Have
so...
you tried admitting your mistake and apologizing?
Wait. So, like, you can just... What's up? It's Fellow YouTube here, and I'm going to finally make that Borderlands 3 video. Whew, boy, it took me a while to get to this one. I was doing, you know, other videos and didn't get around to beating it until just now, but here we are. So, like the last one, that title is talking about the writing, rather than, you know, other aspects of the game. And, really, the writing is very bad. But there is some stuff in there that's pretty good, so I'll give Randy his due and real quick talk about the things that I did like. Oh, and yeah, just so you know, I am going to get into major spoilers for all of the Borderlands games, Borderlands 3 especially. So, you know, just be aware. My favorite thing in this game is the visual design. The game looks fucking great, the designs of everything are just a ton of fun to look at. The spaceships, the enemies, the massive lands you get to explore, it's a pretty game. I love looking at it. The music is also fucking great too. Same guy as the last two, and he brings it. It's really good at bringing a momentary wash of atmosphere to the impeccably designed lands that is, in fact, immediately removed by a god-awful joke, but you know, it's there. Every once in a while, you'll lose yourself in the game. Like, here, I'm gonna do the thing again. I'm actually legitimately upset that this music and this art is in the service of Borderlands 3. Like, it's not just passably good, it's really good. Also, the gameplay is still fast and fun. The guns have a little bit more variety, and you can feel the brands in the guns a teensy bit more. They're also more mechanically interesting, like rocket launchers can be buzzsaw launchers, grenade launchers, or laser cannons. Pistols can shoot sticky bombs, and you can ragdoll a dude to stun them if you hit them with a high damage impact gun like a shotgun. The sound design is also really good, and there's a pretty good variety of enemies that, well, is a little slow to build up. For the first few hours, you're fighting pretty much the same 3 enemies over and over, but as you go to more planets, they gain some variety. Really, this is what got me through the game. Killing dudes was never not fun, and it gave me a ton of opportunities to think on my toes. Bosses are pretty good too. Super bullet spongy, yeah, but the mechanics are there, and they're fun to deal with. And, to be fair, there are a couple of good things I can say about the writing. The best thing I can say is that it's better than Rage 2. Let me explain what I mean by that. You see, Rage 2 billed itself as really similar to Borderlands, with a bunch of crazy wacko shit going off, and, well, it wasn't. It holds to what's marginally popular, and what is safe, so at no point does it stumble and fall down the stairs like Borderlands does. But that's because it never tries to climb down the stairs. Conceptually, it feels like someone pooled together plots from early 2010s video games and made an amalgamation of those, and then gave the actual script writing duties to The Color Gray. Like, God, it was depressing. And I don't mean that it made me feel sad, it made me feel nothing. Like, Borderlands will make you feel something. It may be annoyed or angry, but you'll feel something. But that's not exactly the only thing I can say I liked about the writing. There were exactly 2 new characters in Borderlands 3 that I liked. The first one is Clay. Clay is a charismatic, cool-as-ice bounty hunter who somehow embodies the tone the game is going for without fucking it up, like literally everything else in the game. He cracks some wise, but is never annoying. It's always charming. He has the best line in the game.
Watch my ass, which is to just say, don't let me get shot in it. Language ain't as precise as a bullet, but it can be just as deadly in the wrong hands.
And, well, based on literally everything else in this game, there is something that I'm sure Gearbox was hoping that people would meme into the ground, and even out of the people that liked this game who I follow, I didn't hear anyone say it, so you know what? I'll throw you the bone, Gearbox. Clay is bae. And then there's the other character I kind of like. And this one is contentious. I'm about to get canceled on Twitter over this one because everyone seems to fucking hate her, is Ava. Now, I'm sure you're asking for an explanation, and you'll get it, because I thought a lot about why I liked her, and in doing that, I saw a lot of why stuff didn't work in this game. Ava ended up being sort of a magnifying glass, the Rosetta Stone of garbage, if you will. And that's a good way to segue into the bad parts of the writing. And this time, let's just jump right into it. Let's start with... memes are back, and with a vengeance. And because memes move faster nowadays, these ones are old when they hit the ground. But, you know, that's not to say referencing memes is necessarily bad. Hat in Time did a fantastic job with it. But Hat in Time did it by grabbing slightly less well-known memes like the "We Made a Fucky Wucky" Tumblr post and that one seal video, and leaving them around like little Easter eggs. If you don't get it, it won't get in the way. Borderlands paves its roads with memes. But here's the thing, anyone can just say the game isn't funny because it's just memes and references said loudly. I know, that's what I did in the last video, but this time, I want to dive a little deeper into the humor. Really get in there with the problems. Part of the problem with the humor is just that everyone screams all the jokes. Now, I don't think that we should blame the voice actors for this, they're being told to do this, but all of the voice acting is screaming. And it's combined with the fact that every character has this one particular way of talking. It's like a hipster trying to write a frat boy. They'll have these macho bouts that the hipster thinks someone who goes to a GYM might say, like, "I like to punch things, then drink my own sweat," and then end it with a little hipster flair, something like, "It's a thing." Or give them an armchair psychology motivation that they will announce directly to the audience, like, "The reason I drink my sweat is because it reminds me of my mom. I wanna fuck my mom!" And that's how almost all side quest NPCs, mini-bosses, incidental characters, and new side characters talk. Now, of course, you could say, oh, Pandora is just like that, that's their culture, but they don't really have that defense anymore because the whole universe talks like that. Everyone from everywhere has this unified type of speech that sounds like it came out of an area of San Francisco that was gentrified by tech bros, or what someone from that area thinks someone from Texas could potentially sound like. But now, here's the thing. So, humor is really hard to quantify. I'd go so far as to say it's one of the purest art forms because of how hard it is to nail down why something is or isn't funny. But I think I found the actual secret to why Borderlands isn't funny. I think I understand, and it's real simple. And it was the Rosetta Stone of the game that got me there. When I first reached Athenas, the planet, I met Maya and learned she had a protege, Ava. And my first reaction when I heard Ava speak wasn't, "Oh god, not another one," like it was with the General Man, who was the villain of the area. It's weird. Everyone hates her when her side quest has her saying things like this.
Knew I shouldn't have left stuff lying around. Before I met Maya, I only held on to things I could carry or stash.
But then the villain of that side quest talks like this.
Hello? We're selling attachment issues? Oh, you already have all of them? My bad!
Like Ava's the annoying character in this game? This game has 2 Trons. But really, she isn't written all that different from the rest of them. She has the same line delivery too. Part of the reason why this worked was that she was a tween, and everyone in this game is written in the way a tween might realistically talk. But there was something else that went a little deeper, to the core of the writing. The difference was that Maya was her foil. A tried and true trope of a studious master and the silly student who has a lot to learn. And then it fucking dawned on me. The most obvious thing. Dee Dee, Billy, and Stimpy are funny because of their straight men, Dexter, Mandy, and Ren. A show about Dee Dee, Billy, and Stimpy would not be funny. That's what Borderlands is. Now, not to say that there isn't a straight man in Borderlands ever. There is sometimes, so let's maybe make this metaphor a little more fair. Dee Dee, Billy, Stimpy, and Squidward. Now, Squidward can be annoyed by all of these characters sometimes. Problem is, most times Squidward is doing something else. He's totally unaware of what the other three are doing, and nothing the other three are doing will affect Squidward in a funny way in the future. He's going shopping, they're in another town. The show mostly focuses on the Funky Bunch, but sometimes it'll cut to Squidward for a breath of fresh air from the hijinks. And if they're ever in the same room, most of the time Squidward will just ignore them and continue what he's doing. This would not make a very good comedy, because these characters aren't playing off the straight man, they're just existing in their own annoyance bubble. Or they expect you, the audience, to be the straight man, which you don't want comedy to make you the Squidward, cause Squidward ain't ever laughing. But let me hold my horses a little bit. That doesn't mean that no one would ever get anything out of this show. Truth is, it'd probably be beloved by 8 to 12-year-old boys. They'd probably die of laughter from it. But this game is rated M for mature audiences. Now, I don't want to say this game is for man-children, but I am saying that this game is for adults with the sense of humor of 8 to 12-year-old boys, so I guess that is what I am saying, yes. Really, it doesn't seem like the writers grasp the entire concept of the straight man foil and the crazy man, because they did try it. They tried a real standard Pinky and the Brain thing with Groose and Sparrow. Sparrow being the Pinky, and Groose being the Brain. But it doesn't work because at no point could you possibly feel any sympathy for Groose. Sparrow doesn't impede him in any way. Sparrow just says annoying things sometimes. And this being the case, Groose never ends up with comeuppance for being a giant dick to Sparrow. It's just one-sided bickering with Groose looking like a jackass. Like, listen, it's okay to go off formula. That's how good shit is made. Like, by all means, break the rules, but you gotta understand why the rules are like that if you want to break them, or else you'll exist as an argument in favor of the rule. And that's kinda all it's got aside from the references. And, well, that's a problem. That's a bad thing, you know? You should do better jokes. That's my solution, better jokes. Take notes, Randy. You gotta pump up the funny. Make the laughs go and such. But this was the biggest problem in Borderlands 2 as well, so let's move on to something that's a little bit more unique to 3. So, a problem I had with Borderlands 2, or really the Borderlands series as a whole, was that the subtext of corporations have time and time again destroyed our small town planet and have actively caused it to be the barren hellscape it is, was always kinda window dressing, and was never given really that much depth or expanded on at all. But one thing I can say for all the other Borderlands games was, it was present. Like, it was always there. In Borderlands 1, the Dahl Corporation marooning people on Pandora is what caused Pandora to become a shithole, and the new owner, Atlas, was actively making things worse for everyone. In the second game, the CEO of Hyperion, Handsome Jack, comes to Pandora and tries to build a giant city on it, while attempting to kill everyone and calling you bandits to dehumanize you and justify your eradication. In Tales, Rhys becomes incredibly disillusioned by the corporate culture of Hyperion and how everyone sees Handsome Jack as a role model, and ends up dismantling the company, and confronting Jack, who in the final confrontation, Jack tells Rhys that he is great at being a corporate murderer, better than even Jack was, and that the best measure of success is the pile of destruction you create. Rhys rejects his wisdom to live an adventurous life on Pandora with his cowgirl GF. Tails is the best Borderlands, don't at me. So in Borderlands 3, this theme is muddled. That's a nice way to say it. In the first game, the Atlas Corporation was a massive paramilitary organization that wreaked havoc on the planet Pandora. But in this game, it's cool though. Now it's run by your bro, Reese! So you need to help him fight Malawan, who he's in a corporate war with. But it's cool. Malawan are bad because they're working with the bad guys. They're the bad corporation. As opposed to the good corporations like Jacobs, who in Borderlands 2 there was a running joke about. Every ad for them would be a description of someone being killed in one singular shot directly through the eyeball with one of their precision rifles, and then with the phrase, Jacobs, a family company. Borderlands 3 said this, but unironically. So you, the Vault Hunter, fight alongside these corporations to help protect their interest with a rallying cry like, for Jacobs or for Atlas. Now, on its own, this isn't great, but accompanied by the fact that you are working with these corporations against the villains who are streamers with an army of rabid followers, make the game kind of imply that the subtext is, it is good to defend corporations from the attacks of bratty internet personalities and their rabid fans. Which, yikes, but combined even further with the fact that this is a Randall Pitchfordson game, mega fucking yikes. But again, I'm gonna hold my horses here. That's just what it read as, but that might not be the authorial intent. Not that I would put it past Rowdy Randy, he is absolutely that kind of petty, but there's some stuff that contradicts that. There are several jokes that kind of attack that mindset, like the New You station saying, only poor people die. So let's apply Occam's razor and assume the most obvious, which is, they just weren't thinking about subtext or theming at all. They thought it would be funny to make the villains PewDiePies. They wanted Reese to show up in the game, so they just made him the CEO of Atlas. They wanted you to fight dudes in a big cyber city, so they just made it Atlas's, and they were gonna have you fight Malawan because you haven't fought them yet, and it might be fun. Jacobs could be a Bayou planet because, you know, that fits with the overall aesthetic, and Montgomery Jacobs could have been like a 19th century oil baron man, but like good and nice, and his son could be married to Hammerlock, because Hammerlock is a 19th century British man, and then they hold hands at the end. They're just, you know, putting things in the game. They didn't think about how it would read or if it would match the theming of the previous games, they just, you know, did things they thought would be cool. But you more writing-minded people might say,
isn't it the job of an author to take into account the culture in which they live and how their writing might be viewed in said culture? To think about a message and how it is to be read, and to think about how it might be misrepresented, even if there isn't an explicit, intended, subtextual message.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that's right. Ah, here we go. So this is where the game really drops the ball super hard. Let's go back to high school writing class and let me tell you something from there. The characters are the emotional conduits for your story. This means the way your characters feel about something is going to help the audience feel some way about it. For instance, if a villain dips his staff in green goop and goes, good, the audience immediately feels, uh-oh, bad. And this is where we get to the next Rosetta Stone moment. So whenever something happened in this game, I didn't care at all. I wasn't emotionally affected by anything, and I assumed that might have just been a bunch of little ways they fucked up the execution on a case-by-case basis. Like they turned one of the billion sad knobs on their sad moment the wrong way and, you know, fucked it up. But then Maya died, and Ava reacted very hurt and wanted to go in and fuck up the bad guys who killed Maya, but Lilith said no, and Ava was angry about that. Then you go and implore her to reconsider with one line, and she's just like, oh, okay, for a little while, and whenever you talk to her, she'll loudly proclaim, I'm upset! But when Lilith says, okay, Ava, go fight the bad guys now, all of that emotional damage just goes away. Like it never happened. She's just good now. And my reaction to this was, wow, this was kinda done really badly. I mean, sure, this might be a great start to Ava's story, but this isn't her story. In my case, it's the story of an Indian woman with a penchant for punching, so I don't know, maybe they just didn't know what to do with her next, because they kind of just threw away any emotion out the window immediately. There was no lasting effect that Maya's death had. It just went away. And then I realized something. Ava being upset about Maya's death for a portion of the game is more than anyone cared about anything else that happened in this game. Let's list some of those things. Lilith has her powers taken away. By the second planet, it's never mentioned again. I completely forgot about it until the point when she gets her powers back. A huge chunk of backstory about the twins, the fact that Tyreen couldn't control her siren powers and killed her mom, is dropped on you apropos of nothing in the middle of a quest. I didn't even get the whole voice line recorded because when it showed up so suddenly, I went, oh shit, they're backstory dumping on me, I gotta turn on OBS. Through the game, it's hinted at that Troy, being less popular than his sister Tyreen and abused by her, would betray her and become the real power bad guy of the game. When he eventually does turn on Tyreen to use her as a battery, it happens off-screen and the other characters tell you that it happened while you're on your way to fight Troy. Tyreen begs Troy to stop multiple times during the fight, and when you defeat Troy, Tyreen is still alive and then continues to just be the bad guy for the rest of the game. She's not mad at him for betraying her, she's not mad at you for killing him, she just continues with the plan as though nothing happened. There is a twist that a man you're working with is secretly the twins' father, and you killed his son. His response to hearing the fact that you murdered his son was, "He was a monster, you're a vault hunter, you kill monsters, simple as that." But the worst one is the one that happens at the very end. It's the last thing that happens in the game. After you defeat Tyreen, Elpis, the moon of Pandora, is breaking Pandora apart. Here's a dramatic recreation of what happens.
You did it! You beat the final boss! But oh no, the moon is still killing Pandora!
Not if I kill myself about it!
What? No, you'll die!
Nah, it's cool.
Oh, okay, well, in that case, bye! Have a good suicide! Wow, she died.
Yeah, but look, she put her symbol on the moon.
Oh yeah, she sure did. Yeah, I guess that's pretty cool.
Everything is written with such heavy apathy that the death of Lilith, a major character in all of these games, dies because of a contrivance that was a problem for so little time and was solved with such abandon that the only reason I think the problem existed is so that Lilith could die. And everything then just goes back to normal, like it didn't happen. The end. Nobody in this game gives a shit about anything for more than 5 seconds. Major plot events don't have major impacts on the tone of the story, the way the characters act, or the plot as a whole. Now let's compare this to where Angels Fear to Tread in Borderlands 2. After that quest, the tone of the game takes a dramatic shift. Now, Handsome Jack doesn't want you dead because you're a nuisance, he wants to kill you because you murdered his daughter. Now the Crimson Raiders don't want to stop Handsome Jack because he's destroying the planet, they want to kill him for murdering Roland. Handsome Jack isn't trying to do anything new now, but everything is much more bleak. All of the characters react to each other differently based on what had happened. The stakes haven't changed, but the character motivation has, and that looms over the rest of the story. Changing the tone and making it feel like what happened was very important. Even in a less than story-changing way, in Tales, Scooter's death solves what isn't much more than a momentary inconvenience, but it involves the player characters desperately trying to save him, and him gently explaining that there's nothing to be done, asking to be honored in death, and afterwards all of the characters spend their time with the knowledge that one of their friends has died. The impact is there. There is a recognition of the loss of a friend rather than continuing to barrel forward into the rest of the plot. Like, I could talk about how the pacing walk up to where Scooter was stuck and the slow realization dawning on you what had happened was really well executed and how Borderlands 3 never did anything like that, but that isn't even the fucking problem. This game is so apathetic to its own plot points. And if the game doesn't care about what's happening, how can it expect the audience to? Oh, this is the worst one as far as the writing goes for sure. I'd say Tales is easily the best, but let's pit it up against Borderlands 2, you know, give it a fighting chance. So, in my last video, I talked a lot about the things in Borderlands 2 that I liked about the writing. There was actually some good shit in there. Borderlands 3 does not have any of that. Borderlands 2 did also have a lot of bad, though. And all of those problems, in Borderlands 3, oh boy, there... You thought I was gonna say worse. Oh no. Even more damning than that. They're the same. The problems with Borderlands 2 are not all that much worse in Borderlands 3. They might seem so because of the addition of more different problems, but the ones that were there are just kinda still there. It's the good that's missing. So, in my last video, I referred to the particular head writer of Borderlands 2 as Tony, because so far as I could tell, the worst thing he did was wrote jokes that weren't funny into a video game. And he was also part of an entire studio, so some of all of that stuff might not have been his fault. And he didn't write this game. All of the problems I blamed him for were still there in this game, but none of the good things I praised him for were. I feel like this is all of our collective comeuppance. I feel like this clears his name. We've been made fools of. He was not at fault, because when you look at Borderlands 2 compared to 3, something becomes immediately clear. It could have been worse. At least we had Anthony Birch. No, do not give money to Gearbox, especially not for this game, even if only for the fact that they told their employees to take lower pay because they get a big bonus payout if the game was a success. It was a success, and they never got their bonuses. I mean, not to say there aren't also a billion other reasons not to support Gearbox. Don't give Gearbox money. I mean, I guess. It'll eat up some time, that's for sure. It's kind of fun, but like, you're not really missing out by not. Well, in that case, play Remnant from the Ashes instead. It's also a co-op looter shooter with a plethora of fun guns, great boss design, and, well, the same level of enemy variety, pretty much. It's also got a ton more replay value than Borderlands 3 with Adventure Mode and the new Roguelike mode, which is a lot more fun than just playing through the game again. And even then, in Remnant, the bosses and areas are randomized, so you get new stuff every time you play through. It's honestly really great, and I feel like it was slept on way more than it should have been. And I wouldn't say it's as story-heavy as Borderlands 3, but I would say that the lore is a lot more interesting. But let's get hypothetical and say that's what you're in it for. Let's say you're like me and think the concept Borderlands is built on is interesting, and wish that there was better or more execution on that concept. The Outer Worlds is essentially what Borderlands could be if it gave a shit about its story. It shows the hardships of the backwoods in a dystopian cyberpunk world, and how the corporations control, enslave, and drive the people who live there into poverty. It treats this as a problem with many different ways to solve, and leaves it up to you to figure out which direction you're going to take to make a post-capitalist world and what that will look like on a planet-by-planet basis. It is a very bleak game that shows just how much the corporations hurt its workers, but it's very constantly funny. It's got good jokes and they all land real good. Like, for instance, one of the corporations, Spacer's Choice, that all of these people are born into and build their community and culture around, is a corporation that openly admits to making awful products in all of its advertisements. Like, these people live under the iron fist of the Value brand. And outside of the world building, there's a ton of character depth. All the characters are incredible. Like, this is the game that Clay deserves to be in. And funnily enough, the voice actress who plays the worst character in Borderlands 2 plays the best character in this game. Parvati is wonderful. I love her and I hope she's happy with her space wife. It's just a wonderful, incredible game. Go play that instead. they're making a Borderlands movie, huh? Guess I gotta fucking deal with that, don't I?